whether it's on your television, your radio, your car CD player, whatever it happens to be. That's when you need to be careful and be protective, even if it is your favorite music. And here's a clue. You know, look at who is your favorite group, what is your favorite song, what are the lyrics to that, and that will give you a clue as to what is your programming, or at least part of your programming, and why you're attracted to that band and that music.
Huh. There you go, listeners. Now you kind of got an idea how you can get the first stages of figuring out the target control, I guess you would call it, or I don't know. But interesting. Here's another one for you to take a stab at. And freedom bands that write their own music and that are writing about, you know, the truth movement and stuff like that, that are independent. They're not on big labels or anything. They do all their own music writing and recording. Is that music dangerous to us as well? And if so, is it just because, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Well, again, you know, the answer is if you're listening to it on some sort of electronic media conduit, then you need to be careful, because even if the people who wrote the song and played the music had all absolutely good intentions in mind, when that music gets on any kind of transmission media, it can be altered and tampered with and carrier waves installed over it. So you still have to be careful with that.
And another thing, too, like what you mentioned earlier, was that, you know, the people who are out there being promoted, you know, are they really that good when you really stop and listen to them, versus some of these small-town bands that are all on their own. The ones that are all on their own are oftentimes much better and much more talented, because it's truly coming from within them and not coming from without. However, if one of those small bands suddenly takes off, then you need to look at that. You know, when you're a small band and you get picked up by a big label, you get all excited about that. However, you know, is that really a good thing for that band, or are they just being used? And those are things you want to take a look at and make choices for yourself about what you want to listen to and what's really going on out there.
You know, I was involved in the music industry for a lot of years. There was a time when my manager was a music manager, a well-known one in Hollywood, and I spent a lot of time there, and I spent a lot of time with musicians and bands, and all of them were mind-controlled beyond belief. The manager knew that as well, but there was no way around it. In the music industry, or in any entertainment aspect, industry, if you're going to make it to the big time, you're going to play the game, or you're not going to be in it.
Right, and well, we know that. Follow the money and you'll find the Illuminati. And it says the bottom line, I don't care if you're looking at Christianity, you follow the big money and where it's going. Anybody in the world, man, these guys have got the grip on the money. And
you know, they've been at it a long time. They know every angle. You know, it's brilliant what they do. I don't think there's any control system in the universe that's as total as what they have.
And the other thing, too, is they pass it from generation to generation, whereas, you know, in our culture and in our level or echelon of society, we move about. You know, just because if your father was a, you know, shoot horses, you don't shoot horses necessarily. Well, in the Illuminati culture, they pass from one to another, so the information really isn't lost. They have planned marriages. You know, they build empires in the old school type of ways. We don't have that in this echelon of society. So what they do, they plan for decades, whereas we're trying to figure out, you know, sometimes how to pay our bill for tomorrow, what we're going to eat, what we're going to do. They're already thinking on down the road. They've already decided which music person is going to rise, which is going to fall, and when it's going to happen, and when the next one's coming up. Like we talked about, the young kids are already being groomed to take over when these icons are, you know, history.
All right, and they passed the torch down, and you were saying back a little bit earlier with the caller on how you get demons attached on a level. So I want to see how much you know about the Illuminati and what they actually do with attaching the demons. It's my understanding that they bring it into the altar room, the mastered CD. They bring it into the altar room, and then they hire Wicca to come in with 13 wizards and witches and they cast demons from the underworld or whatever to be attached and follow the CD to wherever it is bought. So each person buying that is buying an attachment of a demon. I don't, whether you believe that or not, these people do.
Well, it's actually correct. But I will tell you, what you described was perhaps an old way of doing it. Now they have the frequency to attach to the CD. They don't have to perform a ceremony each time anymore. They simply have a frequency which they embed in the master, and then when it's copied and distributed around the world, anyone who gets that has the frequency now for satanic attachment.
Nice. There you go, people, man. That right there is what I wanted you to find out. I know they did that the old way, and I don't know if they still have the seances or whatever, but if they're using the frequencies or whatever, we are made up of frequencies. Whenever the Creator said, "Let there be light," His voice traveled through space, and it was a frequency, and everything was created from that source. So we're all attached through these frequencies, and if they're using these frequencies to bring sickness and disease upon our body, how are they doing that?
Well, kind of like, let's go back to the heavy metal idea that you were talking about earlier, that if your body's frequency is going along and you're feeling pretty good and everything's in alignment, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you start listening to, say, heavy metal, and those frequencies, again, are like fingers scratching on a blackboard to your auric field, and it starts scratching around in there and starts breaking them up, then your frequency doesn't flow so smoothly anymore. Plus, you are open for, as Stewart said, either astral attachments. You're open to all the negative thoughts that are out there flowing around. You are just basically, your whole system or your complete tone becomes in discord. And anything that's in discord isn't going to flow nicely, and it's not going to be healthy physically or mentally, which is one reason why I'm just going to mention it here, is we do have a seminar coming up here in a couple of weeks called Deep Healing, and we actually say don't come unless you're ready to get uncomfortable. Because in this seminar, we teach people exactly what you're talking about, the frequencies that have been messed up. There are a variety of ways, ELF, the way you think, the music that's out there, all the external programming, and we teach you how to put those frequencies back in order to find out what's you and what's not, and to decide what you're carrying within you that's really not yours and what to do about it so you're not affected by the outside world.
And you should also realize that every illness, every disease has a vibration which is unique. So if you can take that vibration rate and put that on a CD or in a music transmission, you're transmitting that illness to whoever is listening.
And if the mind pattern is open to receive it, they're just going to bring that right in. For instance, why do you think that we have, as our top three health issues, we have heart disease, we have diabetes, and we have cancer? Those are the top three. It's the same ones over and over and over again, and that's all you hear about in the media. And even like you're talking, I know we're going to go into that in a little bit, but like this Lady Gaga thing in love, that has to do with your heart. Well, she's not really talking about love. She's talking about sexuality, which is a whole different thing. It's not feeding your emotions. It's feeding your lower chakras. It's feeding your reproductive organs, and it's just feeding your, hey, let's go out and have a good time and feel good. It's not feeding the emotional self. And that's why people feel empty. That's why they eat too much, because they're trying to fill the emotional voids. And music definitely has a big part in contributing to the illness of society, both mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual.
Well, I know personally, for my personal beliefs and the way this whole structure came about, was Lucifer tried to overthrow God, and in heaven, or in the center of earth or world, wherever they are, in what is it? They're in the third dimension, I believe it's described as, in the third heavens. So there, Lucifer was in charge of the music industry. Well, not the industry in heaven, but he was in charge of the music in heaven. Whenever he was kicked out, if you believe in that story. Rightfully so, he's taken his place on Earth, and he's using the music.
Well, the Illuminati, a lot of them, their religion has often centers around Satan. And so, of course, that's what they want to promote. And you have to realize they don't see that they're doing